Hello! So, I am book smart. I went to university, I studied law, I got the highest grade for law in my A-levels, like out of everyone, and it was a big college. I would not normally be like selling myself in this way and telling you all of these things, but I feel for what this video is on, it's important that you know that I'm not a complete idiot. Like, I have book smarts, so that you maintain having a little bit of respect for me. So I am extremely gullible. So please, if you watch this, don't be like, try this out, because I'll believe it. I will believe things. Like, it's got to the point with certain people, I'm like, I don't believe anything you say. And it's gone like the other way, because then I don't believe anything. But yeah, I will literally believe most things that people tell me until you push it too far. And then I don't believe anything you tell me anymore. But yeah, so it's not great when you just believe stuff. So here are some of the stupidest things that I have believed or thought. So up first we have, so when I was, and this is like, so I was at 16. So when I was in college, my friend asked me, she was like, oh, every year my family go on holiday to Florida and I can bring a friend. Do you want to be that friend and come? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I'd love to be that friend. It never ended up happening. But anyway, she was like, no. And I was like, Mum, my friend's invited me to Spain. I was like, yeah, she's invited me to Spain. I'm going to be going to Spain, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, fast forward like a month and my mum's talking to the friend's parents and they're talking and they're like, blah, 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 Florida. And I'm like, buzzing, loving this. My mum gets back in the car and she's like, Beth, Florida, they're saying Florida. I'm like, yeah, I know, please, I know Florida. She's like, no, Beth, Florida's not in Spain. So yeah, that was not great. Geography's not my strong point. Another thing, so I was reading an article in some stupid magazine that you used to get back in the day, like Ms, but maybe not Ms, and there was an interview with the two twins, the Weasley twins from Harry Potter, and one of the questions was, did you know each other before filming? And the answer was, no, we just happened to meet, it was such a coincidence. I like ran next door, I was like, Mum, you'll never believe this. And for a while I believed that, and then it wasn't until I wasn't even that young either, I was definitely over, I don't know how old, but I reckon I was 12 plus when I read that. I mean, the movies were out, like we knew the movies. Everyone was like, told my mum. To be fair, she didn't just look at, I mean, I don't know if she thought I was trying to joke or whatever. A few years later, I was like, hang on a minute. That can't be a thing. But yeah, that literally, I believed that. It took me several years before I didn't believe that again. For a long time in secondary school, I didn't know the difference between salad and lettuce. That was not great. I literally did not know the difference, thought they were interchangeable. Also, I think in secondary school, this is so bad, we got given like a map of the UK and we had to label like Ireland, Northern Ireland, I know this, Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, is there another one? This is bad, isn't it? I think that was it. And I literally didn't know which was which. I got them wrong. In secondary school. Like, I do know this now. Also in secondary school, I was really confused about the whole, I'm pretty sure you needed a passport to go into Wales, but I've been to Wales a few times and I was like, I don't remember them checking. So I was like, surely it's another country and you need a passport. So yeah, that was not a highlight of the situation, but yeah, that was another thing. So growing up, my family, we didn't really eat red meat. I think lamb's red meat. Well, we didn't eat lamb. Because my dad had this thing, or we didn't eat red meat. So we used to have this meal on pescatarian we called turkey lamb. So we'd be like, oh, turkey lamb. So for years growing up, we had this turkey lamb. And it wasn't until I was at least 16 because my boyfriend came over and I'd like told him about his turkey lamb and he was like, what the fuck are you on about? Like, you can't have turkey lamb. Like, what is it? And I was like, no, it's turkey lamb. It's this actual thing called turkey lamb. Like, we've always had it. Anyway, he came over, we had this meal and I was like, Mum, tell him. But Mum was like, no, Beth, this is turkey. And we just do it in like a lamb type way because we don't eat lamb. And that's why we've always called it turkey lamb. And they all took the piss because I thought there was some like turkey cross lamb. I don't know, I just thought it was this meat that was called turkey lamb. And I thought that was a thing. Also, really not a highlight of my life. Loads of my stories around the garage. I am not good with the cars. So, my car battery died. And the garage were amazing. They like came out, didn't give me a call out charge, gave me the temporary battery, and then the next day I like got a jump start, or I can't remember. There's loads of stuff. Anyway, took my car to the garage and they replaced the battery. So I paid for it, job done. Came back and then they were like, and then like literally the battery went again. I rung them and I was like, the battery's gone, like you've just replaced it, something's wrong. They were like, are you sure the lights are not on? I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, I never turn the lights on. The lights aren't on. They're like, okay, if you're sure, bring it in. Brought it in the next day, and they ring me, like, at lunchtime, and you get the call, and you're like, oh. They were like, yeah, so you've just left the light on. I mean, that was quite embarrassing. They didn't even charge me for taking my car. I think at that point, they just felt so sorry for me and thought I was so useless. And they were like, oh my God. Also, so outside the garage, which was really busy, like few people picking up their cars. Quite a lot of people worked at this garage. They're really nice. So they were like, oh, I paid. And I went down there, like, here's your key, go get your car. Whatever. And I'm in my car and I'm trying to start and it won't start. And it just keeps making this weird noise. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, sat there for a while. And eventually this guy who works at the garage comes up to me and he goes, your car's already running? That was not, that was pretty bad, that one. This is not really stupid, but I feel like goes with the vein of what we're saying. I went through a period, maybe just because I was wearing dresses a lot and it wasn't anything to do with the time period, where I tucked my skirt into my pants, like all the time. All the time. Like, just constant. So I went through a period where like people were constantly telling me. So I can't remember. So I was walking to work. So I used to like work in Bristol. I'd get off the bus and then you'd walk. You'd literally be like cattle, like walking through the streets, like all the streets. And at one time, like quite far in, this person they're like, your skirt's touching into your pants. I was like, oh, thank you so much. Then I was like on holiday with my family. We were in Primark, and this woman came up to me in Primark and was like, your skirt's touching into your pants. To be honest, by that point, I like, it's happened a few times before. I was like, do you know what? I don't even care. And then at work, I was leaving the loo, and a colleague of mine, I was in the blue corridor, and she was like, oh, your skirt's tucked into your pants. And I was like, oh, do you know what? I was like, it happens all the time. She was like, okay, you're really weird. But yeah, I don't know what was, like, this was not that long ago. So I was like well in my 20s and just unable to like dress myself without flashing people. Also, and I think my parents are a lot to blame for this one. So I was brought up quite Christian. Not like really Christian. We didn't go to church a lot, but I was brought up, like we had a lot of Christian stories. Like my aunt's really Christian. So I was like I went to a C of E school. I went to several C of E schools. So obviously you're all about the God, he's got the world in his hands, built the world in 7 days, Noah's Ark, and you learn on the first day he did this, blah, blah, blah. The last day he had a rest. Don't remember. So when I was in middle school, so I don't know how old that is. I remember we got given this thing and it was like the Big Bang and it was like all the different times of stuff happening. And I was like, what is this? I was like, why are we learning this? Is this a story? This is a shit story, just like atom collides. And I literally had no idea what that was because I truly believed the world was built in 7 days by God and I'd never been told there was an alternative. So I was reading this thing and I literally thought, like, is this a fiction? Like, what is this? Learning a fiction? Like a different story? Yeah, that took a long time. Like, genuinely, for ages, I did not understand that lesson. And it wasn't until I was a lot older that everyone was talking about the Big Bang that I finally was like, oh my God, I've been indoctrinated. There is a scientific view. So yeah, that confused me for many, many years, but I don't feel that was my fault. But yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's so many more, because like I say, I'm so gullible and I seem to lack the life smarts, but please do remember I have the book smarts. I'm not a total moron, I promise. I hope you've enjoyed these stories. Bye. I was really young, and I was young for this one. My granddad told me that there was no reason why we used toothpaste, and it was just so it tasted nice when we brushed our teeth, but water did the same. So I was like, fine, I'm sacking off toothpaste then. Probably about a week later, my parents were like, what are you doing? And I told them, and they were like, no. But I mean, that was my granddad, so I feel like that one's understandable, because he was an authoritative figure, and he told me that, and I had no reason to be like, no, granddad, that seems like bullshit to me.